Hey guys, how are we going? Nice to see you for Training Thursday. And we're back. It is week 2 for, there we go, a little bit more action there. It is week 2 for Finding Your Niche, part 2 of our Finding Your Niche series as a practitioner. So last week in part 1, hey, Stephen, you made it again. Nice to see you. Congratulations on your podcast. Very cool. So for those who didn't see last week, we explored how you can create a science experiment out of finding your niche and how it can be lots of fun. Instead of freaking out about it, you can actually use science as a way to find your niche. This week, in part 2, we're going to explore how it might be you 2 steps ago. And then next week, stay tuned for part 3 because we are interviewing the amazing mentor, Ed from over in Perth, who is an incredible human and an amazing mentor who has really taken the hero's journey and your biography as a way to find and explore where your niche or your target market is. So don't mind me, I have a cold, but I'm going to show up anyway because I love talking to you guys and I love exploring how to make things easier for you when it comes to running your business of being a practitioner. And if you haven't already, you can subscribe or follow me here on Facebook or subscribe if you're watching me on YouTube. And then you'll be able to see all of the trainings because one comes out every week. And sometimes it can be a masterclass that goes for like a whole hour. And other times it's a nice short, 10 to 20 minutes of goodness. And I think that's what this one's going to be. We'll see. Hey, Charlene, nice to see you too. All right. So, finding your niche, part 2. It's you. Now, when we first hear it's you, you're like, no, I don't want to treat a whole bunch of people like me. What are you talking about? Well, that's fine. But when it comes to marketing, some of the most amazing people that you can, some of the most amazing things that you can do with marketing is get in your person's shoes. So whether it's your target market, your niche, however you want to, or your avatar, however you want to describe that person that you really want to help, you have to get into their shoes and you have to know them inside out. You have to know so many things about how not only their presenting condition, if that's the type of niche you're looking for, but you also need to know their heart and their head and their mind and all of the things that go with that. And who do you know the best in the world? You. You know you the best in the world. You know what goes on inside your head. You know your biggest fears. You know what triggers you, what makes you happy, what makes you motivated, what gets you up in the morning, what shifts you and gets you ready to make a change, what makes you take your vitamins and minerals, or what makes you stop taking your vitamins and minerals, or what gets you motivated to take advice and what gets you held up. And essentially that's what we're doing when it comes to marketing and when it comes to finding the person that you can help the best in the world. And there is no one else that you know better than yourself. And the interesting thing that I have found is now when I say, oh, it's you 2 steps ago, or it's you 10 steps ago, what you'll start to notice is there's a story that comes up. Oh, but I don't have IBS, or but I'm not a man, or but I'm not a whatever it is that you're trying to attract as your ideal niche or your ideal client. When we let those things drop behind the scenes and we just focus in on where you were 2 steps ago, say with your health. All right, so right now I have a head cold. Rhinovirus most likely that I picked up off my son 2 days ago. And to feel it right now, I feel like it's probably there because I've been a little bit, stressed from exams. It's probably there because there's a little bit of adrenal stuff happening at the same time as in my immune system. It's probably there from an emotional side of things because I wanted to connect with my son. It's probably, right? So I know all of these things about me. If I was to help somebody who currently has a cold, particularly, right, so I can help somebody who currently has a cold through the physical stuff. So I can go, yep, it's very likely that I've got low vitamin C and zinc, or I've used it up somehow. So I can help you because I know about low vitamin C and zinc and you've used it up somehow. You could have used it through physical stress, emotional stress, mental stress. But I know because I used it up because of pushing the limits of studying. So I'd be able to help somebody who's a student through their immune system issues, or I'd be able to help somebody who is a mum through their immune system issues in a way that I can't help necessarily, I don't know, a man who drives a bulldozer through his immune system issues. Because there's some ins and outs about studying that I know that I can help with. Right? Studying means you're staying up late, you're possibly not drinking enough liquid, that you could put in things like juices and things like that. Oh my goodness, where was I 2 days ago for myself? Right? So there's things along the way. I know there's some ins and outs about that because I've just experienced studying. There's also things about being a mum that I know about because the past 3 days ago, I was looking after my son and I was picking up his virus at the same time as really connecting with him on a whole different level to what I have before. And so there's a really interesting thing that happens when you have that insight into those things, because your niche, that person, that ideal target, that avatar, however you want to call it, they need to know that you understand them. And I can't possibly understand to the same extent a man who's driving a bulldozer and him getting a head cold or his immune system issue versus somebody who's just slept all night right next to their snotty-nosed kid to make sure that they're okay and connect with them, even while studying, right? So I know that 2 steps ago, and my 2 steps, and your 2 steps could be 2 decades ago, it could be 2 years ago, but it's just 2 steps ago, just a little while ago. It's not who you are now because you've lived through it. And so the interesting thing is you've got to kind of check in with yourself about which element of what you do connects with your target market. It might not be the whole of you 2 steps ago. And that's where we can trip ourselves up. You're not necessarily treating an unhealed version of you 2 steps ago, but there's a quality of who you have been that you have lived through, that you've survived through. You did it. You came out the other side and you were healed on some level. And maybe you became resolute. So you had a resolution on some level. Maybe became resolute with being able to support yourself through immune system issues. Maybe you had a resolution of your gastrointestinal issues, your gut issues. Maybe you had a resolution of your stress and you didn't necessarily have gut issues, but you can help a person with gut issues through their stressful time because you have an insight to what it's like to go through stress. Now, the reason why this is important is because all of the wording that you're using and all of the way that you can connect with your potential client, your ideal client that's hanging out there waiting to hear from you, is not through the information that you have for them. You're not going to inform them about the gut microbiome and they're going to be super excited and then come and see you. The information isn't the thing that they're going to come and see you with. Most of the time, it's the inquiry into their feeling that brings them back and back and back. So information versus inquiry. You're querying and you're getting into and you're questioning what it's like to be in that person's shoes and feel the way that they're feeling. And then you're going to give them information. But coming in with the information isn't the way that will get that person enrolled in the idea about what they can do for their health and their well-being, and that you're the person to do it, because everybody's got information. Dr. Google's got information. Every medical thing on Google has information. Textbooks have information. Every other practitioner has information. What helps you stand out and what helps you connect with your ideal client is knowing them and inquiring and questioning what's happening for them in their environment, and then knowing that you have something that you've lived through, a version of that you can connect with. So the interesting thing about, hey Eddie, you love this, awesome. I'm super excited to chat with you next week all about the real hero's journey and take it to that next level, because I know you love talking about this stuff. So the fascinating thing about this is once you are inquiring rather than informing, here is the information. When you're inquiring and you're really curious about it, you're going to be getting a really different type of response back, because people don't remember what you say, they remember how you make them feel. And if you are somebody who has had clients sitting in front of you, for that first initial conversation where you're like basically vomiting education that they've never heard of about health and well-being all over them, they aren't going to remember all the things you say. I mean, humans are only supposed to remember about 13 to 20 minutes, and then we just vague out and so it's very likely at the end of this you'll be vaguing. But they'll remember how you make them feel. I mean, you guys are back watching me again, so it's very likely I create a sense in you about how you want to feel. And so it's about creating that sense of feeling and connection with that person. Now, this is just when they're sitting in front of you. It's an entirely different thing when you're marketing to them. Marketing could come in the form of a letterbox drop. It could come in the form of speaking to them at the supermarket. It could come in the form of a big poster for a workshop. It could come in the form of a Facebook ad, an Instagram post, a newsletter, a blog post. I could give you, and I have got a download for all our clubsters of 50 things that you can do to market to your clients. But the thing about it is, if you don't know the words to be able to market to your client, then you're just going to come across as information. And there's information everywhere. So when you can really truly connect, it makes a big difference. Who do you know the best? You 2 steps ago. Now, if I was talking, and I mean, my goodness, there are so many in my tribe, in the Naturopreneur tribe and in our movement that I can resonate with, because I have been the sitting by myself in a clinic. I have been in what I thought was a clinic, but nobody knew I existed. I've been in charge of a multimodality clinic with 9 other practitioners. I have been slugging through writing my first book and then trying to get it out there into the world. I have been freaking out on the side of a stage before I go and speak to 120 people, right? Now, I didn't just say, I've been in practice, I've had this, I've had that, here's the information. You get that telling you the information isn't going to be the same as what it felt like to be in that. Now, I'll put it in the context of your clients, right? Your clients, one of my clients she is an amazing mum, and she came to me, and she was so the information about her is that she had ongoing IBS for over 20 years and had gotten to the point where she was making multiple stops to get to anywhere in between places and houses, and was actually going to the toilet up to 16 times a day, right? She was diagnosed IBS, right? So there's that. And then there is the other side of, she was a mum of 3. She had to take them to 3 different schools. And between each school, she couldn't drive all the way to those schools because she had to know where every single public toilet was to be able to go, so that she wasn't going to cause an issue in her own car, in her own clothes, right? When I was talking to her about what action she needed to take, right? And everything is marketing. Telling your client that they need to take some supplements, telling them that they need to take some of your advice, telling them that they need to go and read this article that you've got them, or create a change in their diet, that's marketing. You're marketing a new idea and a new change for them. And unless you have some of you in it, and some of you your understanding, then it's just more information that they could have got off the internet. And so for her, being able to sit in front of her and go, oh my goodness, driving to 3 different schools is hard enough. I've been there. Driving to 3 different schools, you've got to calculate all these things. Everything's going through your brain. You've got to leave with a certain amount of time. There's so much going on already for you. And then having to know all those other things along the way, let alone worrying about your body, that must be huge. So to be heard, to understand what that bit feels like, even though I haven't had IBS the way that she's had IBS, I was able to get her on board with the idea that, yes, she's heard. Yes, this person understands. Therefore, the information that I give her is going to be so much more powerful because she's heard and understood. And that's exactly what happens when good marketing hits you. You feel heard and understood, and you're waiting to suck the information out with your credit card in front of you. You're waiting to just be on board because somebody's heard that part of you. So the resolution to that, just in case any of you were wondering, was 6 weeks later, she had forgotten that she had that problem. She had forgotten. Like, she was having different types of issues, but she didn't have to stop at all wherever she was driving. And I know so many of you have had the same kind of results with your clients, if not more epic. Like, it's just incredible. And to have that change for somebody is huge. But I couldn't have got that change for her if she was just Googling and getting information from everybody. The only way that can actually really, truly happen is when somebody's really on board with an idea. And that's what good marketing is as well, is someone's really on board with an idea. Now, you can think that getting your niche because you just want to help everybody, you're just going to speak to everybody, but no one's going to listen if you're just speaking to everybody, unless you're really specific about the way that you are getting across some part of their dilemma. And it's based on essentially where you've been, because you really truly know it inside and out. Like, I really truly know what it's like to drive to 3 different schools. It is a mission. And it takes so much out of your day. And I've lived through it. And I continue to live through being a parent of 3 kids. I continue to live through that. And the ways that I've dealt with that are really helpful to the people that have 3 kids in front of me. The ways that I've dealt with that, and the way that I reframe it, the way that I listen to podcasts along the way, the way that I do these other things, you are the most qualified person if you have lived through it. So this is why it's you 2 steps ago. Now, anyone who is currently on the call, I would love to see who you think your ideal client is, and whether or not there is a connection with you 2 steps ago. I know that there's quite a few praccies who are going for gut-related stuff. They're going for perimenopause and things like that. Now, again, you don't have to actually have that particular diagnosis yourself. But part of the story that goes with that diagnosis is generally a certain amount of stress, is generally a certain amount of fatigue, is generally a certain amount of things that you've probably lived through, that you probably have an amazing experience in being able to contribute to that conversation with. The other thing is, your target market might not be a symptom, right? It might not be the symptom. So I was adrenally fatigued, and I revolted against that. I was like, no, I'm the detox person. Rah, rah, rah. I'm the puzzle person. I can help all the people with all the puzzle situations. You know, the ones with all the crazy diagnoses. I had never had one of those. Yes, I can read pathology like it's the back of my hand and all that kind of stuff. But to know what it feels like to be in that, to be a puzzle case, to not know where the questions and answers are, and to not know whether I haven't had that. So I can't speak to that in the same way that I can good old adrenal fatigue, because that experience that I had, I wrote a whole book based on that. Freedom from fatigue was really what I was looking for, and I could actually speak to that in a way that not only had the information that I had from 2 university degrees, but it also had that experience and that part of what I could do. And I had a level of empathy and a level of understanding for that particular client that I could write and talk about it all day. And again, it took a long time. I really wanted to backpedal on that. No, I'm the detox person. I know biochemistry. I know these things. But where the gold was for my clients and myself was to lean in and explore what part of me 2 steps ago could be really helpful for the person that was in front of me. All right, Nick. Oh, it's totally me. It's just like you took me. It took me a while to really see it. Yeah, I get that, Nick. Jane, kids with learning delays, food intolerances, and anxiety issues. Cool, Jane. Have you got kids as well? So similar kind of scenario, right? Or have you got food intolerance, or have you got anxiety, or have you got a version of that? And when you are talking to these people, are you bringing that to the fore, or are you just giving them more information? Cool. Anita, menopause and urinary issues, but I think I would like to empower women through the menopausal transition. Oh, I like those words. That's cool. Empower women through the menopausal transition. Awesome, Anita. And again, you don't have to have lived through that particular thing, but what you've learned 2 steps ago, that's the thing that can be really helpful. Lisa, yeah, I'm the perfectionist, over anxious, stressed, overwhelmed model for my ideal clients. I love it. That's awesome. Now, this is the thing, Lisa. Going through what you're going through currently isn't going to help because you're in the midst of it, right? But the things that you started to notice about yourself 2 years ago, 12 months ago, that stuff is absolute gold. When you start to have those awarenesses about how you have been going through something and how you got through that's the story that you want to tell in your marketing. Those are the little insights. And actually getting back to Nick, Nick's an amazing practitioner who has written an incredible course called Calm AF, Calm as, and her insights and her little quotes on social media are extraordinarily spot on, because it's what's going on inside someone with an anxious mind's head, and she knows it inside and out, and it's spot on. Like it speaks to that person with a level of compassion and empathy and care enough that you just want to, you're just enthralled. Like it's a lean in type of moment because you feel heard in those moments. So love your work, Nick. Stephen, something I'm still trying to nail. I tend to attract and work with many women experiencing hormonal imbalances. It's what I'm asked to talk about most. But what holds me back on focusing on these ideal clients is obviously I'm male and I can't relate to their experience completely and empathize from this place. Beautiful question, Stephen. Awesome. Oh, well, even though you didn't ask a question, you made a statement. But the interesting thing about it is I'm not a kid, right? I'm not a kid. I have been a kid, but that was 4 decades ago. And and for that there is still essences of what's going on in there. And the same thing will happen for you, Stephen. I've seen you have amazing women around you who are creative and extraordinary, and their experiences are rubbing off on you. And your experience of being able to hold the space for that, your experience of stress and fatigue and anxiety and overwhelm and all of those things that go along with what we know with information from our heads is an extraordinary thing as well. And if you want, so yes, there's that. And if you want to lean into this part 2, so if you've leaned into part 1 and you're experimenting, this can be another experiment. If you start to look where you were 2 steps ago. Now, again, 2 steps ago could be 2 lifetimes ago, 2 marriages ago, 2 diagnoses ago, 2 years ago, 2 months ago, 2 days ago, right? But it's something that you've lived through that is part of you, and it was probably one of your most challenging times. Now, one of my most challenging times was adrenal fatigue, and even drawing in on those moments changed the way that I was viewing adrenal fatigue, because we can get into this real practitioner speak, right? We can go full on practitioner. We can get all the textbooks out and we can, talk to all of that. And I was starting to get that way. I had a microscope on my desk and I had all of the, I was palpating and physically examining everybody, and like they turned into my beautiful experiment. And I missed the bit where they were at, because I had forgotten what it was like, because it was actually 5 steps ago for me that my adrenal fatigue was at its peak. And so to be able to step back and go, what did it truly feel like in that most challenging time? What did it truly feel like to be there? There's something that happens there, and it could come, Stephen, for you, it could come up that you recognize how you get through that challenge, whether it be a health challenge, whether it be a change of job challenge, whether it be overcoming something to do really well in music, the arts, athletics, whatever it happens to be. In that challenging time, something else comes through that, and that part of you gets reignited to be able to share your story, to be able to empathize, to be able to connect on a way that you possibly haven't before. And so, yeah, it's one of my biggest invitations to you guys is to think about, where were you 2 steps ago, and what challenge did you go through, and what tools did you use to go through it? Now, again, you might not be treating that particular challenge, but you might be using those tools to go through it, and that might be what you're actually contributing, rather than helping the specific you of 2 steps ago. Jane, yep, I'm in the 3 Kids Club. Woohoo! Yes, we've dealt with all of these issues. Yeah, so it makes it a really powerful conversation for you if your ideal client is somebody with kids who have intolerances and anxiety issues. Because what you then need to do, and what Nick's done beautifully, is take what's going on in your head and share it. Not the information and shoving, statistics in people's faces. And although that's nice occasionally, and some people respond to that, but most of the time it's what's going on in your head. Like, just eat dinner, or why, why can't I, things like, am I the only household where all the food has to not touch one another? There's things that are very unique to the thing that your people are going through that is only going on in their head. And when you start to speak to that in your marketing, when you start to speak to that through your posts and things like that, they'll be heard, and then they'll lean in for the thing that you're offering, rather than you just trying to give them more information all the time. So cool. Melinda, I was diagnosed with PCOS last year at a time when I was learning so much about this area of health and really loving the learning. Also, seemingly attracting a lot of women experiencing this condition. I don't feel like I have a level of knowledge on hormones to support these women, but I'm working on it. I also attract a lot of women going through menopause. Awesome. So as women, we happen to know what it's like to go through hormonal things. And albeit they aren't specifically around that particular condition necessarily, there is highs and lows and things that go on in your head to do with that. There's stories that go on in your head that behind the scenes that you don't think anybody else thinks, but people who, like women who have hormonal issues, either their period is coming, their period is not coming, they're trying to fall pregnant, or they're in menopause. It's a very similar story. And if you know what that's like, and you have that little bit going on in your head, it's time to kind of share that in your marketing, because that's your niche. That's where you really know the ins and outs of it all. Charlene, I've recently decided to help kids. Awesome. Therefore, anxious mums not knowing what to do with their kids when they're sick. From easing the whole birthing process to scraped knees, allergies, beautiful. And yes, 2 years ago, I had my youngest, and I can see that if I didn't know what I know now, how on earth that would have worked. Yeah, I totally agree, right? So 2 years ago, the 2 years ago you, and this is the same for all of you, right? The 2 years ago you, if they knew now if they knew then what you know now, how powerful could that be for them? And you can be that person for that person 2 years ago. That was hard for my cold riddled head, but it's so true, right? If you think about yourself 2 years ago, let's just pick 2 years. I was saying 2 steps to free you all from the idea, but let's say 2 years ago, right? The you 2 years ago, if you knew some of the stuff you know now to get you through those past 2 years, imagine how powerful that could be. And then hop in that person's head, think about the things she or he were thinking about, see what that's like. See where you could step in and help that particular person, because you are so much more aligned with that particular person's journey than any other. So that's cool. Awesome. Hey, Christine. Hey, Rachel. Awesome. And that's the other thing. Yes, Anita. That's a beautiful thing to bring up, is that, Stephen, you should definitely go for it. Lots of women like to see male practitioners. Yes. And there could be a really interesting thing that in when it comes to your you 2 steps ago, could have been you 2 steps ago helping women, how that's evolved in your life, how your relationship with women, including your mum and other bits and pieces, that is the thing that you're bringing to the fore when it comes to your ideal client, is the relationship that you have, being able to share information and them share information with you. So this is the really interesting thing about finding your niche and leaning into the idea that it could be something about you 2 steps ago, because nobody knows it more intricately than you. And knowing your ideal client, your avatar or your niche, is all about intimately knowing their ins and outs of their mind, their ins and outs of their heart, and their ins and outs of their physical self. But that's tertiary to it. It primarily, first you want to hit them at their mind, because marketing is all about that. You want to get them on board to think differently and to make a change. You want to hit them with their heart, because the way you make people feel is what is going to stick, and not necessarily the information that you give them, because the information is just like everybody else is giving them. So you've got to actually create an opportunity for them to feel it. And you also have to hit them, obviously, with your physical knowledge that you have as a healer, but you're going to do that anyway. And so the bit that is missing when it comes to finding your niche is really honing in on what's that story, how's your story aligned with it, and how can you truly help that particular person. And have a think whether or not the person that you're currently targeting really has you've helped that through either yourself or helped that through the past, so that you can really provide value either to their mind, their heart, or their physical self. All right. Hopefully this was a nice little exploration as of part 2. Thank you for persisting. I am really excited next week to introduce you guys, if you haven't met him yet, Ed from Perth, who is an extraordinary mentor and has really taken this idea of finding your niche in your biography and your hero's journey to the next level for Praccies. So I'm really excited to bring him on for Training Thursday next week. If you, again, have found this helpful or beneficial, make sure you share it with another practitioner, because this could really, my mission is to change the paradigm that we are living in as practitioners for our business and our mindset. And as many people who you share this with, the better. Also, subscribe on the YouTube channel, or make sure that you follow me here on Facebook, and I will catch you on the next Training Thursday. Thanks, guys. Bye.